Gordy is the program director of Sports Talk 79 in Houston. Does a daily radio show, also does a Locked On SEC podcast. He's an LSU alum, but we're not going to hold that against him. Chris, welcome in, man. How about that game in Athens last night? Didn't expect it. 8 overtimes. Georgia comes out on top. What'd you take away from last night?
Well, as the host of Locked On SEC, I felt like the conference's pride was on the line. I mean, my God, the number of people who were tweeting out, the SEC stinks, the SEC's awful, they don't deserve to get any teams. And I'm like, all right, Georgia, do us a solid, at least win this one so we can at least guarantee one team is in the playoff. I mean, it went a little overboard last night, the hating on the SEC. But nonetheless, big win for Georgia. Now I think, they're in a spot where even if they, say play a close game against Texas or Texas A&M next week in the SEC title game, and even if they slip up, I think they've earned a spot. So we'll see how many SEC teams get in. But, man, that was hairy last night.
Yeah, it was quite eventful. I'm glad it happened. I'm going to be honest, Chris. I didn't really care about SEC pride last night. I was hoping but Georgia Tech would pull it off. I kind of like Brent Key, and yet they came up just short. So in terms of the SEC, man, looking at today, what game's the most intriguing for you?
Well, first off, I do want to say, you mentioned LSU, and I've had multiple friends who are LSU alums texting me today going, can we please get back to playing Arkansas this week? Like the whole thing of calling it rivalry week and all this, and I get it's kind of becoming a little bit of a rivalry again between Arkansas and Mizzou, but like for LSU, like it was Black Friday was known for Arkansas LSU, and it was a fun rivalry that was, went different ways all throughout the years, and for all the talk of it being rivalry week and LSU's playing Oklahoma, I mean, it's a little bit of a weird, dud. So, but nonetheless, that one should be entertaining tonight. Obviously, not much on the line there, but in terms of compelling, I mean, right up the road here for me in College Station, it's Texas versus Texas A&M. It's a game that before the season, I picked the Aggies to win because I said they're going to treat that game like it's their Super Bowl, and I said, that's whether the Aggies have 5 wins, 7 wins, whatever. Well, it turns out they're 8-3, and they're actually, ahead of schedule. They're way better than Mike Elko, than we expected from Mike Elko in year one. So, crazy that a trip to Atlanta is on the line here. But I don't know, man. I've been holding firm with my pick all week with the Aggies because I just think College Station is going to be rocking. Kyle Field is going to be electric. And, let's be real. Texas has not really been tested yet. I mean, you guys saw them against Arkansas a couple of weeks ago and needed the fourth quarter to pull away. They got out of Vanderbilt with a 3-point win. I was in Austin last week, watched them in person against Kentucky, and, every moment of that game felt like, oh, here they go. This is where they pull away. And then Quinn Ewers throws a pick 6, and suddenly Kentucky's back in the game, and it's like, man, I just don't know about this Texas team. Quinn Ewers has not, just absolutely crushed the opposition this year, and I have big questions of him going into tonight with the bum ankle, and if he's slowed down at all, man, I wonder, will they give Quinn or Arch Manning a look if he struggles at all?
Yeah, I know that has been wild, rampant speculation in the last 24 to 48 hours is like, what is Steve Sarkisian going to do with this quarterback situation? Something to watch tonight. So let me ask you this, Chris, on that Arkansas-LSU thing. Arkansas fans do not look at Missouri rival. I know what Sam Pittman said this week, but there's no way that like Arkansas and LSU could come together and be like, yo, we want to play this game. Let's move Missouri. Like, why not play Missouri and Oklahoma at the end of the year? Because that's an actual rivalry. And I know they have the Battle Line Trophy, but can you just do a quick swap? Wouldn't that work?
I'm with you. I mean, it just seems like so often that some of these rivalries, like the SEC looks out for the top rivalries to preserve them, right? And it's like, all right, well, we got to protect Georgia and Auburn. We got to protect Auburn and Alabama and all this. And then it's like all the other teams left over, they go, all right, well, you just get the scraps. My wife's a Kentucky alum. And for years they had Mississippi State as their permanent rival. She's like, there's no rivalry there, or South Carolina. I mean, like it's these like manufactured rivalries that you just have to kind of make up. But I'm with you. I think both LSU and Arkansas should go to the league office and say, hey, we'd like to play this game. Revive this rivalry the end of the season because it just feels weird. I mean, again, we'll see what Arkansas can do today. Mizzou fans love to kind of peacock with this rivalry and kind of make it into something. But I I'm with you. It just feels weird Black Friday not having LSU in Arkansas.
Well, the game that Arkansas does play today, Chris, I don't know if you've seen the weather, but it's already snowing in Columbia right now. It's coming down, probably going to be 2 to 4 inches, it looks like, for game time. Who does that impact more later on today?
Well, it's interesting. I was diving into the numbers, and I was actually surprised. Arkansas has been, like, if you look at the numbers, obviously been one of the better run teams all year. And then Arkansas was actually a little bit better against the run than I remembered. Just kind of look at the numbers this morning. And so, obviously we know they've struggled against the pass. Those numbers are highly skewed because of that Ole Miss game. But, I do think Missouri, Brady Cook has not been great. Luther Burden is going to be playing, likely his last college game. I would assume he's going to opt out of the bowl game, being a top draft pick. But, we'll see. If Brady Cook has time to throw, then, maybe they can attack Arkansas through the air. But, to your point, if the weather is a factor here and it becomes a grounded pound game, I think it's advantage Arkansas. I know Missouri, has run the football pretty well. Nate Noel and Marcus Carroll. They have another freshman running back that they really like as well. But to me, if it becomes, a grounded pound, grind it out type game and run the clock.
Instead of clouded dust,
again, I think that's
cloud of snow.
Arkansas.
Yeah, instead of 3 yards in a cloud of dust, Chris, it's 3 yards in 3 yards in a cloud of snow. Again, Chris Gordy is our guest here this morning. Sports Talk 790 in Houston, host of the Locked On SEC podcast. Chris, how many SEC teams do you think are squarely in the college football playoff right now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a set number. I mean, I think we all kind of predict that it'll be 3, right? I mean, I think we think that the SEC champ is going to be a lock for a top 4 seed, but that still isn't completely locked down because there's a world where if Texas A&M beats Texas this weekend, A&M is 20th. If they beat number 3 Texas, they'll probably jump up to maybe, 12th or 13th. And then if they beat Georgia in the SEC championship game, how much does A&M move up? You're talking about then a 3-loss A&M or SEC champion in A&M, are they a lock for a top 4 seed? Probably because of the 2 teams that they would have beaten to get there, but it's not a lock when you've seen some of these teams like, Boise projected as a top 4 seed, and, we'll see what happens with the Big 12 champ. But, I would assume, okay, the SEC champ is in. In that scenario, if A&M were to win out, I think some people said even if Georgia loses the SEC championship game at this point, that they would be in as a 3-loss team. I think if Texas loses tonight, they're still in as a large 10-2 team.
Yep.
And I think if Tennessee beats Vanderbilt, they're in. So I think that's the only scenario right now where the SEC gets 4 teams in. But I think the chalk is probably 3. Let's just assume Texas wins tonight. The winner of Texas-Georgia in the SEC title game is in. The loser is probably in. And then, it's all about Tennessee beating Vandy tonight. I still think, there's an outside chance for South Carolina or Alabama, but I think those are – I just don't see the scenarios falling in line for either of those teams to get in. So I think it's 3, but, again, the way people are talking down about the SEC, I mean, it's almost like people are saying they'll be lucky to have 2 teams in.
So, Chris, on that note, I think the argument is being made right now, playing out that hey, SEC should move to 9 games because if it's this cannibalistic in 8 games, what do you think it's going to be like in 9 SEC games? So if you're Greg Sankey and you're watching the conference beat up on each other, I mean, where's the argument to go to 9 outside of money? Because I don't see it.
Well, the thing you said outside of is the thing that moves everything. It's all about money.
Moves the needle. Yeah, fair.
That's the deal. I mean, it's look at the ratings of the success that the SEC on ABC has had in year 1. I mean, it's amazing. Quick raise of hands. Raise your hand if anybody has watched more than one CBS, a Big Ten on CBS game this year. I've not watched one. I mean, it's
one.
Been a total,
nope, you're right.
It's been a total joke for the CBS and just an absolutely awful business decision. And for the SEC and the ABC, I mean, it feels like every week, guys, we've had the triple header. We've had the morning, the afternoon, and the night game, all SEC on ABC. So it's been a lot of fun for fans to watch, and I'm with you. But I said this at the beginning, Ty. When we talk conference expansion, when you talk about the bottom of the SEC and the Vanderbilts and the South Carolinas and those kind of teams, I said, if you want to expand, invite those kind of teams in. You add 2 behemoths like Texas and Oklahoma. you get what you deserve. I mean, you're adding more parity to the league and more top dogs, and it's more losses on the schedule for people and more potential upsets. And so that's what makes this thing so difficult is, yeah, I mean, you go to 9 conference games, yes, you were talking about more cannibalism moving forward and the SEC upsetting its own, but to me, that speaks to how deep the conference was this year. I mean, the talent level was there, and from top to bottom, that anybody could beat anybody on any given day outside of Mississippi State. To me, that speaks to the stronger conference. You know, what's not a good conference is the Big Ten, when you got 3 behemoths at the top and everybody else stinks. Like, that's not a good conference, and that's kind of what the SEC was for years with Alabama and Georgia just dominating everybody.
And I would argue it's just 2, Ohio State and Oregon. I don't know if I'd lump Penn State or Indiana or anyone else in that category. So I agree with you there. Chris, before we let you go, I got to ask about the temperature of Brian Kelly. Now, I guess the better question would be after today's game, if they were to lose to Oklahoma. But, I mean, what are the vibes in Baton Rouge like now? I mean, at the highest ceiling they could get is 8 regular season wins. If they lose today, they go 7-5. I mean, people aren't happy about that. What's the vibes in Baton Rouge?
Yeah, I mean, look, fans are overreactionary. I mean, I think when you stop and look back at it, I mean, obviously Florida beating, you know, the loss at Florida is the one everybody got up in arms about. And then the next week they beat Ole Miss, and it was like, all right, well, maybe that Florida team was just kind of clicking on all cylinders at the right time. I think you take a step back and you look at it. I mean, the guy's 27-11 in his 3 years at LSU so far, 16-7 in the conference. The only people that have better records than that in the conference, I mean, is Nick Saban. He's retired. You know, Kirby Smart, Sark, and then maybe I think Josh Heupel he's tied with. I mean, so you're literally talking about the third or fourth best coach in the SEC. I mean, you know, for all the LSU fans who want to poo-poo him, like, that's still pretty damn strong. I mean, he's a better coach than, no offense, but Sam Pittman. I think, you know, we can still make a case he's a better coach than Eli Drinkwitz. I think, you know, he's right there with, you know, you want to debate Lane Kiffin. Okay, we can debate that. But, I mean, the guy did win the SEC West his first year there. So, look, it's got to start trending in the right direction. I mean, by year 4, all of Nick Saban, Les Miles, and Ed Orgeron had all won a national championship by year 4. So I think the expectations raised big time for him next year. But, look, the rumors are right now that Garrett Nussmeier may come back next year. The right tackle, Emory Jones, may come back. Harold Perkins apparently is on the fence about coming back. So if he gets all those guys to come back next year with a top 5 recruiting class that he's about to sign next week, I think the arrow's pointed upward for LSU. But you're right. I mean, results matter, and it's all about vibes. And, yeah, 4 or 5 loss season in year 3 is not what people are feeling. But I'm not ready to throw him under the bus and say fire. I mean, $61 million buyout. We're about to start paying players here. You're not going to pay a coach $61 million to go away.
No, that's true. Chris, we'll leave it there, man. Appreciate you hopping on with us this morning. And we got a wild SEC slate today. Hopefully it's as fun as what we saw last night in Athens.
Yeah, please go beat Eli Drinkwitz today. Please just do that for me. Thank you.
You got it. That is Chris Gordy, program director and on air at Sports Talk 790 in Houston and host of Locked On SEC podcast. We're going to take a break. It is Arkansas Game Day, brought to you by the Stadium Shop on Razorback and by Sawyer's Sunrooms.
You're listening to Arkansas Game Day, sponsored by the Stadium Shop on Razorback in Fayetteville and by